Welcome to the good, the bad, and the ugly, where the mighty are fallen, the good get ugly, and there's no such thing as bad publicity. This time we assess the form of 5 high-profile personalities who've had to contend with being labelled gold diggers. Back in 1994, when Anna Nicole Smith married J. Howard Marshall, it was hard to see what she saw in the 89-year-old oil business executive, other than his billion-dollar fortune. But when probed in interviews, the 26-year-old glamour model insisted she didn't marry Howard for his money.
I'm not a gold digger. I could have married him a week after we met. I didn't.
In defense of their marriage, which was to last the remaining 13 months of Howard's life, Anna maintained that although he was unable to satisfy her, she had certainly put a smile on his face. By that time, she'd already made a name for herself, appearing on the cover of Playboy in 1992 before becoming the magazine's Playmate of the Year. But when Marshall died, she became embroiled in a legal battle of Dickensian proportions that stalled her career. Left out of the will, she went head-to-head with his son, E. Pierce, suing for half of the $1.6 billion fortune she claimed Marshall had promised her.
Although this was an unusual relationship given the ages of the people, this was a woman who, at the time they married, was a world-famous model, and the district court found that she gave up many of the best years of her modeling life in order to be with J. Howard Marshall, and that there was real affection.
The yo-yoing case saw her awarded nearly $500 million in 2000, before the ruling was overturned, leaving her with nothing but a $1 million bill for legal fees. Another judgment landed her $88 million until an appeal reversed that decision too. Pouting and posing for the paparazzi like an overripe Marilyn Monroe, Anna's startling weight gain and erratic behavior made her an easy target for late-night comedy shows. But instead of running from ridicule, she welcomed it with open arms, signing up for her own reality TV show, The Anna Nicole Show, which featured her lawyer Howard Stern and teenage son Daniel. More than a decade after her late husband's death, the fight for his fortune hadn't let up.
It's her lawyers. It's not Anna Nicole Smith. Anna Nicole Smith is not the brightest light bulb in the fixture, and I don't think I have to tell you that. These are contingency fee lawyers who want to get rich.
By the end of 2006, the battle for a piece of the action took the ultimate toll on E. Pierce, who ended up succumbing to an aggressive infection, and the fight was taken up by his wife. However, E. Pierce's demise was mercifully quick in comparison to the tragic chain of events set to befall his opponent in the case of Marshall versus Marshall. In September of the same year, 3 days after Anna Nicole gave birth to her second child, Danny Lynn, she woke up to find her 20-year-old son Daniel dead from a methadone and Zoloft overdose in her hospital bedroom. 2 weeks later, in a bizarre twist, Anna Nicole and her boyfriend lawyer, Howard Stern, exchanged rings in an informal commitment ceremony in the Bahamas. Then, on the afternoon of February the 8th, 2007, she was found dead by her bodyguard in room 607 of the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel in Florida. The pathology report revealed that she had died of combined drug intoxication. In all, 11 prescription drugs were found in her system, 8 of which were allegedly prescribed to Howard Stern. In the ensuing bun fight over Anna's remains, her estranged mother, Virgie Arthur, insisted her daughter's body be taken to Texas. The ugly battle between her and Howard Stern kept Anna from being buried until March the 2nd, when she was finally laid to rest beside her son Daniel at Nassau's Lakeview Memorial Gardens. However, all of that wrangling was merely a warm-up to the unseemly tug-of-war that broke out over Danny Lynn. While Howard Stern had been named her legal father on the birth certificate, a former bodyguard and Zsa Zsa Gabor's husband crawled out of the woodwork to stake their claim to the 6-month-old potential heiress to a billion-dollar fortune. After a DNA test, it was Anna's former boyfriend, Larry Birkhead, who emerged victorious.
I hate to be the one that told you this, but I told you so.
Within a week of emerging from the Beverly Hills Hotel with Britney Spears on April 23, 2004, Kevin Federline had been catapulted from the lowly status of anonymous backup dancer to the rarefied rank of household name. In the early days of their romance, that name may, more often than not, have been preceded by the words love rat. But hey, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Feel free to hate on me. You know, if you have no one to hate, feel free to hate on me, because I think haters are motivators. You know, you can't really get anywhere without somebody gawking at you or you know, nitpicking at what you do.
In his case, the nitpicking revolved around his abandonment of girlfriend Shah Jackson, who was 6 months pregnant with his second child. The star of Moesha and celebrity rap superstar later revealed that the shock of losing Kevin had affected her health during the pregnancy. No doubt all the public displays of affection didn't help. Within 2 months of giving birth to son Caleb, she had to endure the humiliation of seeing wedding photos of her ex and the former teen queen splashed all over the front pages. And just in case she'd managed to miss any of the particulars of the public courtship, she merely had to tune into Britney and Kevin Chaotic the following year to catch up on all the juicy details. One of the details the show didn't go into was her mother's insistence that they sign a prenuptial agreement to safeguard Britney's fortune. Having just recovered from the shock of her daughter's last rush job romance, Lynn wasn't going to get caught napping again. 6 months earlier, she had woken up to the news that she'd just become mother-in-law to Britney's childhood friend Jason Alexander after a quickie wedding in Las Vegas. Switching into immediate damage control, Lynn had headed potential financial claims off at the pass by persuading them to do the right thing and get the marriage annulled. Having averted one disaster, she wasn't taking any chances with a possible gold-digging backup dancer who just dumped his pregnant girlfriend.
Kevin would get $300,000 per year, equal to a time for half the total time they were married, which is complicated, which means if they were together for 2 years, then he would get $300,000. He has no access to her companies, to any of her additional assets.
But that didn't stop him from living it up at her expense while they were married. Early tabloid reports painted K-Fed as a wild party animal who left Britney at home while he stayed out clubbing till dawn.
Kevin loves to go out and party. He'll hang out with his friends till all hours. He'll bring people back to the house. And he has been spotted frequently hanging out with strippers and girls at clubs.
His fun-loving ways became an even bigger issue in the tabloids after Britney announced she was pregnant in May 2005. However, Kevin's answer to all the image bashing was that he was simply misunderstood.
Yes, misunderstood as they portray me in the tabloids.
How do they portray you?
Well, I mean, you know, there's been a series of different things, cheaters and among other things.
Kevin, who by now was working on his own solo singing career, contended that he was just a nice, laid-back guy. And as Britney's attempts at juggling motherhood and superstardom began to fall apart at the seams, Kevin's bad boy image miraculously morphed into that of the caring father and patient husband. How could he help it if the release of his debut album coincided with the birth of their second son? Ahead of the launch, K-Fed was playing Mr. Nice Guy to the hilt and painting a rosy picture of their relationship.
I'm watching the mother that she's growing into and all these things, like all those things influence me. I mean, she's strong, you know, she's a strong woman and she knows what she wants out of life and I mean, that helps build a strong man, you know, that's basically what it is. So I look up to you, baby, and I love you.
6 days later, Britney was filing for divorce, and Katrina Zish was putting a very different spin on the strong marriage.
Their final days together were filled with lots of arguments, lots of tears. On Halloween night, Kevin was having a big launch party for his album in Los Angeles. Britney didn't make an appearance the whole night. She was at the club, but she was in a dressing room upstairs the whole night. People saw them having a screaming knockdown, drag-out fight, and then Britney eventually ran crying from the building, wearing a sexy black dress and no shoes, and she just looked incredibly upset.
The relationship, founded on rocky ground, had come to the sticky end that nearly everyone had predicted. But at least she'd safeguarded her daughter's millions.
The prenup that she really didn't want to sign, that her mother urged her to sign, really is going to be her saving point in all of this.
The sting in the tail, however, was that although Britney hung on to her fortune, she lost custody of Sean Preston and Jaden and was ordered to pay $20,000 a month in child support to Kevin, who emerged from the piece as something of a knight in shining armour and was presented with a Father of the Year award by Privé nightclub in Las Vegas. Depending on whom you talk to towards the end of 2006, Heather Mills was either an angel...
She's warm, she's loving, she's generous, and those qualities are very evident when you meet her.
...or a demon.
She is trying to desperately destroy a legend. She's destroying a national treasure. I don't know what she's playing at. I think she's a very, very wicked sado who needs an awful lot of help.
But then emotions were running high in the wake of her split from Beatle legend Sir Paul McCartney. The announcement had come hot on the heels of tabloid revelations about Heather's past, allegedly exposing her as a former porn star and high-class prostitute. Branded Lady Mucker by the gutter press, she dug herself even deeper by daring to accuse Sir Paul of domestic violence, drunkenness and drug abuse. Spin King publicist Max Clifford sniffed the air and made this pronouncement.
Paul McCartney is extremely popular. Heather Mills has never been anything but extremely unpopular. I think that as the last few months have unfolded, her popularity has gone down even further than it was, if that's possible.
4 years earlier, it had been all smiles as the happy fiancés greeted locals on the eve of the wedding in a 17th century castle in Ireland.
A couple of words thanking all the people who've wished us good wishes, the people who've written in to us, and the people we met on the street who've said congratulations and wish us all the best. We'd like to take this opportunity of thanking those people.
For a while, it looked like the charity campaigner who'd lost her leg in a road accident was finally being embraced by the British public as an acceptable successor to Paul's late wife, Linda, who'd been regarded as something of a saint for her commitment to animal activism. Even Paul's designer daughter, Stella, was rumoured to be making more of an effort to get over her antipathy towards her stepmother, who was just 3 years her senior. However, not long after Heather gave birth to baby Beatrice the following year, the cracks in the marriage started to surface, along with rumours that Heather had pressured Paul into marrying her less than 4 years after Linda had died. Now that she had given him a daughter, some commentators were speculating that she would go for the jugular in the divorce.
Heather McCartney decides on the financial case to say to a judge, not only am I entitled to X% because I've been a wife for 4 years and I brought a child into the world and that sort of thing, but I've had conduct suffered against me by Sir Paul, which is really terrible. A judge can take that into account and can penalise Sir Paul and give her a larger award.
As the lawyers went into battle, Paul's family and huge circle of influential friends closed ranks and Heather was left out in the cold. But the battler from Aldershot in Hampshire wasn't taking it lying down. Nor was she letting her lack of a leg stand in the way of signing up for a stint on the US version of Dancing with the Stars.
If I was worried about, critics, then I wouldn't do anything in my life, because this is the first thing I've done in 10 months, and I've been chased and hounded for 10 months and being told I'm a publicity seeker.
Publicity seeker or not, one thing she could no longer talk about was her relationship with Sir Paul. He'd made it a condition of settlement that if she wanted a sizable slice of his Beatles fortune, she'd have to sign a gagging order. She reluctantly obliged, and in February 2008 was finally granted a lump sum of £24.5 million, along with £8 million worth of assets, plus £35,000 a year in child support. After the judgment, Heather tried to turn the tables on her ex-husband by getting the judge to block publication of the details of the divorce, because the judgment involved private, secure matters of her daughter. The judge refused the appeal, but Heather's lawyer claimed his client was not in the least disappointed.
I've spoken and she's elated with the judgment and she accepts the Court of Appeal's decision.
And why not? Walking away with just 1/5 of the lump sum she applied for, Heather Mills still ended up with the equivalent of around £25,000 for each day of her 4-year marriage to Sir Paul. When Guy Ritchie met Madonna through mutual friends Sting and Trudy Styler in 1999, the scales of professional success were heavily weighed in her favour. Since topping the US album charts with Like a Virgin back in the 80s, her genius for perpetual reinvention had propelled her to the top of the Guinness World Records list as the most successful female recording artist of all time. Meanwhile, 31-year-old Guy was at the start of a directing career, having put in a very promising debut with his feature Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. Their union seemed to fit the modus operandi of the Material Girl, who at 41 had displayed an uncanny talent for jumping aboard the next hot trend. By the time they married in Skibo Castle in Scotland in December the following year, she'd already given birth to his son Rocco, and he'd released his second film, Snatch. It seemed as though the most powerful woman in pop had finally met her match in the beer-swilling alpha male who loved to go hunting, shooting and fishing. More importantly, she no doubt hoped that she'd finally met the magician who could transform her into a bona fide film star. After directing the video to her song, What It Feels Like for a Girl, which saw her running over people in the street, he conjured up a remake of the 1974 film Swept Away, with Madonna in the lead. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a rather unimpressive trick. Both the movie and Madonna's performance came in for a drubbing from critics, and Swept Away bombed at the box office. And while Madonna didn't exactly blame Guy for the debacle, she did confide in a 2005 interview,
I think the next time I make a movie, I'm going to be directing it. That's my goal.
By that time, commentators had started to wonder whether Mr. Madonna may have lost his mojo. Since making Swept Away, his only credit had been a 10-minute short film for BMW. Far from being the next big thing, as fans of his first film had predicted, he seemed content to be a stay-at-home dad and hang out with the boys. Meanwhile, Madonna was bringing home the bacon with her platinum-selling Confessions on a Dance Floor album and sellout world tour. In 2006 alone, Forbes magazine put her earnings at an incredible £72 million. At the premiere of his next film, Revolver, Guy admitted that he wasn't quite as good at multitasking as his wife, who'd also managed to launch a series of children's books, become a model for H&M, design a tracksuit, curate an exhibition, adopt a baby, and appear in a play over the past few years. So when rumours of a split were confirmed in late 2008, everyone was speculating about the settlement.
He will be entitled to claim some kind of compensation if his career has taken a bit of a backseat to hers. And he may get a few million. He may be entitled to a half share of the main homes that they have here and in America. But I suspect the figures are more likely going to be sort of 10 to 15 plus a million plus a share of the homes.
However, it soon became clear that this was to be no repeat of the Paul and Heather show. 6 weeks after the decree nisi was issued, on the basis of Guy's so-called unreasonable behaviour, the divorce became final and an amicable settlement reached. Guy came out with around £50 million, taking into account the value of their country home in Western England, and they agreed to share custody of 8-year-old Rocco and 3-year-old David Banda. Not a bad result for a bloke who claimed he couldn't give two hoots about money.
We're in the business of creativity, and it seems a shame when the material aspects of this business surpass the creative aspects of this business. And you know, I like the geeky bit, right? I like the enthusiasm, and that has currency with me.
While there's no doubt that the former wife of Britain's Prince Andrew has cashed in on her associations with the royal family, she can't really be called a gold digger. The story goes that when the time came to discuss the terms of her divorce settlement back in 1996, Sarah Ferguson was asked by the Queen what she required, to which she replied simply, "Your friendship." Fergie, who has retained her title of Duchess of York, has since claimed that she was happy to walk away from the marriage with a mere £300,000 for the sake of preserving a healthy relationship with the royal family. Though terribly noble, that stance seemed a little at odds with the extravagant spending and inappropriate behaviour with other men that kept the media so entertained during her marriage. However, she later managed to put some perspective on that by explaining that the loneliness and boredom of royal life had contributed to all the mischief. And indeed, since the divorce, she's been true to her word. Despite the media's constant attempts to discredit her, she continues to speak well of the royal family and has remained on great terms with Andrew and her daughters Eugenie and Beatrice.
She is the best advice giver I could possibly ever wish for, and she leads by example, really. And her behaviour kind of is one that I really would like to follow.
Her ability to poke fun at herself has helped her cope with all the ribbing in the tabloids, who branded her the Duchess of Pork in response to her weight gain in the wake of the divorce. In fact, she ended up having the last laugh by losing the extra pounds and declaring in an ad for Weight Watchers, "Duchess of Pork? Not anymore." She then went on to earn a fortune as the weight loss programme spokesperson.
What I've learned is that diet is a no-no word. At Weight Watchers, it's not a word we use. It's a lifestyle change. It's about understanding the balance of life. So you can eat anything you want, but just keep to the points or keep to the core plan, and you can lose weight.
The contract with Weight Watchers was just the first of the deals she cut in the US to begin paying off the multi-million-dollar debt she'd amassed during her marriage. After that came endorsement contracts with Wedgwood China and cosmetics company Avon, as well as a lucrative career as an after-dinner speaker. By 2005, she'd become such a celebrity stateside that she even had a somewhat fattening sandwich named after her at New York's famous Stage Deli. And Fergie was only too happy to debunk the stuffy image of the royal family and do an honest day's work.
A lot of the public think, maybe people are unapproachable. Well, I certainly am not unapproachable, and I think it's good that we're on the public stage, we do a job, and today I'm saying, look, you can have your sandwich, but just don't eat such big portion sizes. And perhaps use, like French's Gourmet has just brought out this delicious low-fat mayonnaise, perhaps use that.
More recently, in between her busy schedule of charity work, business and public appearances, she's also found the time to become a film producer, raising the finance for the 2009 royal biopic Young Victoria.